Al at San Marcos?
No.
You don't know that? They were really good guys. That was a good team that when they were in, they all, well, Justin, I don't think wanted to, but Caleb and Chris always wanted to come here and work. But, you know, I would say, well, you know, let me know when you're available and I'll have you teach a class or something.
Yeah.
And they're just so busy, they never get around to it. So.
Yeah.
Tim, did you go to Santa Barbara Junior High?
No, I went to Goleta.
Okay. Yeah. Because there's a teacher there, Tim, and he was there, and then he went to carpentry for a few years. And he called me and said he wouldn't mind working. But would you be a shop teacher? Did you ever do that?
I've thought about it. It's fun.
Yeah.
High school kids aren't that hard.
No. I mean, sometimes they'll come on strong, but usually.
Yeah, come on strong and then you just give them attention and ruin their day.
They're a lot of fun.
It's funny with the kids that take shop class, they just think it's a free period.
Yeah,
Most
exactly.
places like this is not a free period. You either show up and do work or you,
Right.
or you fail the class.
Right, exactly. Well, those all the shops in this town are really well equipped. I mean, they're unbelievable shops, and you could learn to do a lot of great woodworking in those places for sure. And they got the DNC machine.
CNC machine?
Yeah. Did you leave before you had that?
No, he got the CNC machine, I think my sophomore year.
Yeah.
And we didn't use it until like until the junior year.
Yeah, he was so busy and never
figure out. And then he got a class, I think my senior year, specifically for cabinet making.
They didn't have wood shop in 2011. The teacher quit in 2010 or something.
Oh, what was the teacher's name? The old guy?
Yeah. I don't know. He looks like a gnome apparently.
Yeah. I worked with him because I was here during that time.
He did. There was a whole joke with when he was a teacher that he was a gnome. He put a gnome on the wall of the class. And it's still there. Mulquay has it on his little treasure hunt little thing at the beginning of the year.
Well, that's what happens to you when you get old and you get all. He was okay. I mean, you know, teachers are teachers. Hey.
How you doing?
Good.
He started getting all this new stuff when I was leaving my senior year. He got rid of those green lathes that he had, and then got some new. He got one my senior year, and then he got a second one last year.
Yeah. Boy, those guys, you know.
And a drill press. You got a drill press too.
Trade Art has you know, that I don't know if you know about them, but all the shop teachers sort of belong. It's a trade organization. It had all the, you know, Frank Skipper and Doug Ford and all these guys, Don Gordon Fiona. And one year they decided they were going to support the high schools. So they went and cleaned out a lot of them. Like I think DP was sort of okay because it was still functioning, but Santa Barbara High was just defunct. They just stopped. Yeah, wood piled everywhere, junk. And they cleaned it out and then started giving them like 20. What do we have our budget? Was it 20 a piece or 20 altogether? 1,000 for just materials. Well, no, it's tools.
Yeah.
And materials. So the city would give some, right? Because they had to, and then we'd supplement. So they got their shops really built up.
Oh yeah, they got a second table saw, new drill presses, lathes, and everything.
And then you got to go see San Marcos shop and Santa Barbara. God.
We all talked when I was there, Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
I think Betts was the teacher.
Yeah.
Well, it's all high tech now. I think Mulquay got new lathes when he got hired. Because I remember taking a summer camp and he had like almost maybe a year-old gent lathes, and then when I leave, he gets all these nice new fancy tools. He gets a jet lathe with a speed adjustment thing on the side instead of taking the belt off.
Are those the little ones that do the pins?
Yeah.
Those guys all went nuts over that pin thing, didn't they?
What?
I mean, they're cool, you know, but
I got a little lathe and I started making pens, and I smoked the engine when I tried making a bowl. So I got this big giant $2,000 lathe for free
yeah. Oh wow.
from a friend.
Yeah, they would. I think I even got one from somebody. Those were cool.
Are there 35mm drilling templates in the shop? Tony, aren't there a couple? For cabinets?
I don't know.
Mm,
Because Rodney's bought a lot of stuff over the years that I don't even know about. He goes out and gets stuff. I find out when they tell me, hey, you guys are spending too much. Hey, where is everybody?
We still got 2 minutes.
Yeah, I know, really.
You an Eagle Scout?
Yeah,
Nice, me too.
so was my brother, but
Did you get it here in town or somewhere else?
I got it, yeah, I got it in town.
Oh, right on. How was Scouts here in town?
It was fine. My troop was fine.
Yeah,
I know like troop 4, they were just like mainly technological based, and then there's 26 that were hardcore outdoor troops. They went snow camping all the time. There was my troop that was kind of in the middle. We did a lot of backpacking and camping and film, try to focus on technology and stuff.
fun.
Going to Philmont and doing,
Okay.
yeah. Did you ever go to Philmont?
No, I didn't do it here in town. I
Philmont's
did
in
it.
New Mexico.
No,
One of the,
no.
yeah, it's a national thing.
Oh, cool. I went to the Jamboree in Virginia, like,
Okay.
15 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, there's Philmont, Sea Base, and Northern Tier, and I think there's a 4th one at Northern Tier or in the area in New Mexico.
These are like scout camps?
Yeah, scout camps
Yeah,
that are
sure.
open during the summer. At Northern Tier, I think, it's a winter camp, but they get scouts from all over the country.
Are you 18? Are you older than 18?
19.
You're 19. You can still go to those?
Yeah, you can still go, well, yeah, you can go as an adult.
Oh, right on. That's cool.
And then there's Sea Base that's in Florida that is sailing and in the sea. It's and you need a passport for that to go into national waters,
That's
international waters. And then Northern Tier, you need is a snow camp, and then there's a canoe one for the summer where you go canoeing and you need a passport for both of those because you go in Canada. And then there's Philmont, that's in New Mexico. You just backpacking New Mexico.
over summer.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
But it's for 2 weeks, not for the whole summer.
Okay. But in the heat.
It's not that bad, actually.
No?
No, it sucks because we're in the middle of monsoon season.
Oh, interesting.
So you get heavy rains that can, like, my brother went and he said it rained like every single day he was there.
Did you do Order of the Arrow or no?
I went all the way up to Brotherhood.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that stuff was fun.
Yeah, I love those ice cream things at summer camps. Did you have those?
Ice cream thing? No.
No. Those summer camps here, they would have like ice cream socials.
Okay, I think I did do like one of those.
And there were some kids that were just in Order of Arrow just for the ice cream social.
Yeah. You have to do the initiation, the overnight.
Yeah, where they starve you for a day,
Yeah.
or we're not supposed to talk about it.
Yeah, and you just sleep in the woods and nothing, basically.
No, we did it at Rancho Lager and we just did a bunch of stuff around the camp there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
I don't think they do it at Rancho Lager anymore since it burnt down, but
You had it pitched then.
we still have a camp in tents, and we had one night where we hiked up into the mountains and the first night actually we hiked up in the mountains and we slept there.
Just like under the stars, no tents or nothing.
Yeah, no tents or nothing. And then the next day we woke up early in the morning, we hiked down the mountain and did stuff, and we got like very little food.
Like volunteer work type of thing.
Yeah. Like paint tables, weed eat.
Okay.
The adults would use weed eaters, we would use little old fashioned little,
You actually use like scythes?
yeah, not nice ones. These ones were like
Old and rusty.
modern, old rusted things that didn't do shit and were dull half the time.
Oh man, we built a dock. We like repaired a dock for mine.
Yeah, there was nothing, when I was there, there was nothing really to build. I mean, we had the adults, I think, tore down a deck to get rebuilt. But I don't think we actually rebuilt it.
How many people in your troop actually got Eagle? Is it a lot or not many?
We had for the amount of people we had a decent amount. I mean, I think almost everyone has been eagling out. I know there's one kid that just didn't focus on scouts that much, and he didn't eagle out. And then there's a few kids that just got it right at the edge.
Yeah, okay. Right before they turned 18.
Yeah, one kid cut it close.
Yeah.
I think he had his meeting on his birthday or something.
Oh, damn. That is close.
But everyone so far has gotten their eagle. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people in mine that did it.
I mean, my cousin, he was like, he did his project and everything, project paperwork and everything. And had like one or two verified to do this. Signing on to it.
Oh,
No.
They do concrete, right?
It's so dumb because the projects take so much. to do.
Yeah, it takes so much time and effort and stuff to get it done with.
Just a couple of aircraft, you can do anything for the.
Yeah.
That new development is doing. Texas, we
Yeah.
bought one of the houses.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And they do the walls.
I
with it?
actually finished mine over
It's just
overseas.
a wall.
I finished
Two
mine. in
layer
Australia.
wall with
Yeah.
insulation.
So I was a
Yeah.
lone
It's
scout.
some sort of, it's just a.
You're a what
I
scout?
was a lone scout.
Alone.
Yeah, like finished it without a troop.
Oh,
Well, you know how I feel about cement.
Yeah,
So it's cement and electronics, so
yeah.
we love our gadgets. You know, since you can't do the roof and a lot of stuff, if you could do it all with a machine, that would be one thing, but
you can assemble a roof in a factory. You're pre-made.
well, yeah, you can, but yeah, you can do that too. Yeah, in fact, you can do all of it in the factory, right? You could do those prefab modular trailers. Well, there's one in, we used to go visit it, but the people got tired of us coming to their house. I used to drag classes over. There's one, Dennis Allen put it up, it was on, it was in the Mission area, I can't remember the street now. And it was Michelle Kaufman, she was the architect, and she started a factory in, I think it was Washington. And they would build they would come in units, you know, rectangular, and then they would pile them kind of on top of each other. And they would do everything, the finish work and everything was done, and they just ship it down, and they get a big crane.
Yeah.
So,
I was
you
just
know,
looking at a company like that in Vermont
yeah,
that does houses on the East Coast like that.
yeah, I don't know how,
I mean, they have a giant 3D printer that 3D prints houses now. so.
yeah, no, we were just talking about it, yeah.
Sears catalog home.
I was just looking at another, just like some company called Ready Frame that just they ship all the lumber to your house. And they optimize it for you. They cut it all
They
up.
cut it to different things, yeah.
Yeah, and they label where the triples and kings and trimmers are all
Hey-
supposed to go.
Hayward was doing that at their trust plant. Well, that's Dennis Vega, do you know him? One of
No.
the students? He'll probably be here later. He worked for Hayward for years, and they did that for a while. I don't know if they're still doing it. I don't know if it caught on. It kind of takes all the challenge out of building, you know?
It's gonna be like Legos someday,
Yeah,
where you just
yeah.
read out of directions.
I mean, it's all about, you know, it's all about getting something done for cheap when it should be a career. I mean, what do you call it? A calling. You know, carpentry is like a calling. It can be a really beautiful thing, and you can make, you can have a really creative side, you know, side to your carpentry, but they're continually trying to smash that and just make it a, you know, something to just create housing no matter what. So I don't like that. I think it won't be as interesting to people if it's not a, you know, a trade that's got some creativity to it. Well, we're not in charge of the economy.
No, we're not.
The developers have free reign, whatever they figure out,
Yeah,
that's what we'll do,
yeah.
which is too bad. It could change.
It's kind of this paradox. It almost seems like more creative architecture is from my brief experience, it seems like more creative architecture tends to be like more wasteful.
Yeah.
In some. to
Well,
some extent.
the architect, he did the Disney Center down in LA, downtown. Gary, what's Gary, Gehry? I forget his first name. He did a museum in Bilbao, Spain, and then the Disney Center, there's another one that's famous, and a lot of little things. He's originally from Venice. But they're all metal. They're all welded with these weird shapes, and the cost is enormous.
Mm.
And they're not, it's just not a good, I think they're good looking, they're interesting looking, but like you say, it's kind of a novelty rather than a practical. I would rather see practical things that have nice design, But I think, we have to, in order to reuse things, we have to modularize it a lot more. And I think we ought to modularize and just have fewer building products, and then the creativities and how you put them, how you join them and put them together. But people having the ability to be unique is such an American value, It's like part of the freedom thing. We're free to build our house any way we want to and waste all the money we want to, use up all the energy we want to. And that's not a very communal outlook, that's where individualism really gets. So I don't know. It's gonna kill us. It's already killing us. If we don't get over that, we're kind of done. But anyway, so let's get on to happier things like a roof building class in Santa Barbara. So get out let me ask you, does everybody have this handout? Because I have it on there.
Mike,
What's that?
Michael have it?
Mike has it.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going, this is the recording?
Yeah. He's even here.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Patrick.
Oh, he's not on there?
No, he's not.
He's on. Hi, Mike. I can't hear you, but I'm saying hello.
You've been on the record sometimes.
Yeah, I know. So I know, did I swear a lot? Not that anybody's ever gonna look at me. Yeah, I put them. Oh, here's Dennis. I have a question for you, Dennis.
Yes.
I put them in the file and I sent Mike an email asking if he wanted them sent by email as well, because then he could have them. I didn't hear back from him, so at least he's got it on file, Canvas file. So remember that, I don't know what it's called, that process where the lumber yards, you give them the plans and they actually cut all the wood to the various sizes and bundle it and send it to the houses.
Yeah,
I don't know, is that gonna name?
it's kind of like a trust system type of deal.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were doing it.
Pre-cut package, it's a package plan or something like that.
Yeah, Pakistan, they were
Yeah.
doing it up at the Trust Center,
Yeah,
but are they still doing it, do you know?
upon request, it's a thing. Call them up and they'll give you numbers and all that for it. But
Yeah.
It's a,
But I mean, you're not still,
no, I'm not with them anymore.
how long have you been not with them? A couple of years?
I ain't big things.
I know,
About 8
one year's
months.
just gone, so
About
forget
8
that.
months, yeah.
But do you remember, would you have seen people order that package thing?
No, it's not common anymore.
It's not common, yeah.
No, but
It kind of came and went, didn't it?
yeah, but it's.
That was
Some
my,
guys do it for like floors.
yeah,
Some of the guys down, they'll send it in and they'll request, oh, let me get this many cut,
yeah,
pre-cut that and yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, who said they saw? Louis, was that you that was talking about the package, or was it you?
I was watching a video.
You're watching the video. A YouTube on
No, it was on this, I just found this app called Construction Instruction.
yeah, but it's recent, current stuff, right?
Yeah, it's current stuff.
Yeah, so maybe somewhere they're doing it, middle of the country or somewhere. Try to keep up with California, we have to try all kinds of things.
Huh?
I was in the video.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, so, everybody got this handout out? This is the Bible for this class, so. If you lose it, if you legitimately lose it, I'll get you one. So I want to show you guys, if you don't already know, where the what all the different methods of finding this, and they're all on the back of this first, no, yeah, back of this first page. Methods for finding common rafter lengths. And so if method A, if you look at that, I mean, we're going to go back and forth between those pages, so is the Pythagorean theorem. And I want to show you that because that's how the others all work. But actually doing the Pythagorean theorem is not the simplest way. And what they've done is over the years is they've figured out a way that uses the Pythagorean theorem, but they do the work behind the scenes, and then they put the results in the figures on the framing square, or they put them in the rafter book tables, right? So they've done it all for you. So now you don't have to actually do the Pythagorean theorem, but it's all based on that. So, but if you look at this first picture, the rafters connected to a ridge on top, right? And it goes to point D. It doesn't go, obviously it doesn't go into the ridge. It can't. But that middle of the ridge is the middle of the building, and we use the math to the middle. So we've got to actually subtract that little DC distance, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. So the rafters cut at the right angle, and it's nailed to the ridge at the top. Then it comes down and it sits on the plate on the outside wall. And it's got a bird's mouth that's cut, you know, the profile of the plate. And then it's got an overhanging part that goes past that. So if you have if your wall on your building is not perfectly straight, and you can have the bottom plate on a chalk line that's snapped, but if the top plate has plate that's bowed at all, you know, plate's supposed to be the straightest wood you get, but you know, like if you get it at Hayward, who knows what you're getting. And if it's bowed, then it's not going to be straight, right? So when your bird's mouth comes on that, it's going to follow that bow. And so the ends are going to be the same curve as that wall. So you don't cut the tails ahead of time. You cut the tails on the end tube, and then you put all the rafters up with longer than they need to be. And then you snap a line from one end to the other, a direct straight line, and then you just level down and you cut them all in place. And then you look down at it and it's perfectly straight. So we'll cut, we'll probably cut a template that'll have the right size, but on all of them after that, we won't. I mean, maybe we'll cut the 2 end ones, and then there won't be any. Yeah, we'll leave them long from there on out to the hip, and even the hip will be long too. And then we'll snap that edge at the very end and cut them all and put the fascia on. So you don't draw the line for the end cut at the rafter tail. Yeah, another reason why you don't do it, not only because it follows the wall, which may be slightly curved. The other reason you don't do it is because the rafters could have different, could be bowed differently lengthwise. You could have a different crown on them. You know, wood has extreme to straight crowns. And when it comes down if it's got a crown, it's going to come down at a different angle. Then a slightly different angle each one. So then if you cut them all at the angle just with the framing square, then they're all going to be slightly varied angles, and your face is also going to go like this. So that's the other reason you cut it at the end, and then they'll all be straight. It's really important because when you walk by a building, you can just line that up, right? You can get 20 feet out and look right down that. And if it looks like crap, it's not okay. We'll talk more about that. But I just wanted to let you know that the tail is not important right away. So if you look at this drawing again, you'll see there's a, you know, in geometry, they do they put a letter at each angle and call the triangle by the 3 letters. So we'll call this one ABC. You can all see those endpoints, right? Howdy. Hey, did you pass your thing? Did you take your test?
Yeah.
Okay, you should go. Is everybody done their temperature? Yeah, can you do, you want to do your temperature on your forehead, right? Just to make sure. So, right. Yeah, Ray, you gotta get up one more time. So this triangle here, it's a little darker. You can see that at ABC. Right? A is at the outside of the wall. B is at the center line of that wall. So it's the run or half the span.
Is that what we had last week?
That's what-
Last week?
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot the folder that has extra copies, so I'm hoping I don't have to get one out. Although I've got it on the file ready to project up if we need to. I'm gonna see if we can just talk and you can look at it and it makes sense. If it doesn't, then I'll get on the thing and you can watch read me point to things on the projector. So either way is okay. So the triangle goes to the outside of the wall, to the middle of the building, and then so it goes horizontally. That's the run, and it's half the width of the building because it splits the ridge in half. So that's halfway across the building. So that bottom AB is the run. AC going up is the rise. And remember I said we don't really need to learn that yet. So if I wanted to find AC, the hypotenuse of that triangle, I could use the Pythagorean theorem. The bottom side will be whatever the run on that wall is, right? And then we can find the rise, sorry. Now, the one thing that's given to us is the run because that's the half the dimension of the side of the building, right? So that's given on the plans. We know that. So let's say just for talking about it right now, we'll use 12 for that. Remember I said it's never going to be exactly 12, but we're going to make a proportion so we can use 12 and then plug in the actual numbers. So I can't erase it. So everybody's got 4 on the side, right? We decided to do a 312 wood, but we'll go back and forth. Sometimes the drawings will have 4. So if the bottom's 12 and it's a 412 roof, then that vertical BC side of the triangle will be 4, right? So then if we want to find AC, we just square 4, which is 16, right? And then we square 12, which is 144. And together that makes 160. And then we take the square root of 160, and that's what AC is. So we could do that because we can get all those numbers, but that's just a longer way to do it. Okay, so there's a lot of distinctions in this, but it'll be simple once you get it. Okay, so just bear with me. So I call that, I made up my names for this because the books don't have good names. So I call it a slope triangle, right? Because it embodies the slope, but it also has the rafter involved. And what we're looking for, okay, whether it's a hip rafter or a jack rafter or a common rafter, we're starting with the common rafter on a gable roof because that's the simplest, but everything works the same way. What we want to find is what we call the length of the rafter length. And there's 2 kinds. There's one that we call, and it's on that first page, a theoretical length and an actual length. So the theoretical length, the length we get from doing the geometry, the numbers, because we have to use the center of the building to do the math. But you obviously can't take that rafter and put it to the center line of the ridge. It's going to hit the ridge before you get to the center line, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to subtract from the theoretical length that little DC, that little bit. And that'll get us the actual length, which is what we're gonna cut. We're gonna cut from D, and then we're gonna mark A, and we're gonna cut a bird's mouth above A. So the length, the theoretical length of the rafter is from C to A. And the actual length is from D to A. Does everybody see that? And so we can find the theoretical in various ways, with the framing square, with the Pythagorean theorem, with the tables in our books. And then there's also one where you lay it out with the square. So there's 4 methods. Nobody used the Pythagorean theorem, so it's really just 3. The tables, laying it out with the square, and then using the information on the square, those 3 methods. We're gonna learn those tonight. So the tables will give you the theoretical length, and then there's a way that you have to determine DC, that little thickness of half the thickness of the ridge. So go down to the little circle at the bottom. It's the same circle as up above, but it's a little larger. Everybody see that?
Mhm.
And it shows the rafter coming in, hitting the ridge at point F. So if the rafter was horizontal, which you wouldn't have a horizontal rafter. If you did, it would go from F to H, right? And that would be half of the ridge. So if the ridge is typically 1.5 inches, it's a 2x10 or 2x8 or 2x12. So just think ridge is 1.5 inches. Now we do that with buildings that are going to be covered up. You're going to have an attic, you're going to have a roof. You're never going to see that ridge. If it's a cathedral ceiling, then you can either drywall around the ridge or put, 1x material on it, or you can use big decorative beams. In really expensive houses, the ridge will just be this giant, really nice, costly beam. But a lot of our houses, and probably the ones most of you worked on in Santa Barbara County, the ridge is a 2x something, and it's rough framing lumber, and it's covered up, so it doesn't have to be better than that. So we'll talk about how this would change if you had a bigger beam later, but because this is so common, let's just start with the 2x ridge. So if it were going straight across that, it would be half of 1.5 or 3/4. So like FH would be 3/4, but they don't go straight across. They come at an angle. And if you know anything about geometry, that angle is actually the hypotenuse of a triangle, and it's always longer than the bottom one. So if the bottom one's 3/4, if the rafter's at an angle, the distance through half of that ridge will be longer than 3/4. Now, so there's a rule. If your slope is up to 512, 512, 412, 312 or lower, that is only about a heavy 1/16 different. So it's negligible. So you can use 3/4 as a distance you subtract from your theoretical length. If it starts getting steep, and look at this like FJ, that's like a A-frame. Remember we're talking about A-frame slope. You can just see that's like, you could just project 3/4. It's almost twice 3/4. That's going to be somewhere between 1.25 inches and 1.5 inches. So you'll have to actually figure that, because you're going to subtract more from that. The distance from the ridge will be more. And I'll tell you how to find that. A lot of these exceptions are more complicated because we have to save till later, because I want you to get the overview. Yeah.
Which of them was 1.5? Or is that the whole distance?
No, FJ, I was just saying, it looks like it's almost twice. If you look at the length of that line.
Okay, so that was the 1.5.
Yeah,
And then
it's somewhere
FH
around 1.5.
FH was 3/4.
Yeah, and I'm going to show you how to find that exact length. I was just saying it's about, but it's twice as much as the 3/4 that, you can't just call it 3/4. You have to actually subtract that whole amount. Anything up to a 512 roof, which is about like that, won't be that different than the horizontal, so we just consider it the same. And since that's the common house around here, you don't often have to think outside that box. But I will tell you various ways to do that a little later on when we've gone over this whole thing. Yeah, so that it shows you 3/4 above, half of it, an inch and a half hole, because it's a 2x8 here, and then it shows you various angles that those rafters could be coming up, either steep or more like what we do around here, 312, 412, 512.
And you cut in that before or after the bird's mouth?
Good question. You're cutting it first.
Okay.
We'll do all this. We're gonna go out and do this, and I'll tell you, but
Okay.
that's okay. Ask those questions because you don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to conceptualize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we first take the rafter and then with the slope. I'll show you how to do it with the speed square and with the framing square. So that'll give you your upper cut. And then you're gonna measure from the bottom of that upper cut down to the bird's mouth. Now, that brings up a good question. There's so much information, I'll miss something, I have to go back occasionally. But if you look at that bird's mouth, the reason they take the length of that rafter, both theoretical and actual, the reason they bring it down to A instead of the inside of the wall, where the horizontal bird's mouth ends, is because that point varies. If you make your bird's mouth deeper, this one I drew to like 1.5 inches because it's like on the plate, same size as the plate. But if that happened to be deeper, you can, or higher in this case, it's deeper when you're cutting, it's higher when it's on that. Then you can see a horizontal line across would hit that bottom of that rafter quite a bit up from that point. So, and 2x6 will be different than a 2x4 wall. So that's a rotating point. But the bottom of the bird's mouth, where A is, that's always going to be there, right? No matter how high that bird's mouth is, that point is stable. So we take the bottom of the bird's mouth as the one end of the rafter length, and then D, where it hits the ridge, is second end. And we'll learn how to make the right mouth bird's mouth too. That's in here too. Okay. I wrote a little sequence. I'll probably just throw this out and no, I think that's everything.
So the method in the chapter of the book with the square,
With
where they're going down, 12 inches at a time, is that kind of the most intensive?
The one where it's stepping down.
Yeah,
in the
is that
book.
kind of the most intensive way to measure it out?
No, that is as easy as the tables book. Those are both the two easiest.
Right.
But that one, you know how lumber is milled and it's got a little round edge, bull nose on the edge? That makes it harder because you're transferring that line down. And when you put the square on the line made from the position before, it has to be right on. And if there's any drift, if you make it a little bigger, over 10 square lengths, you're going to end up with a slightly different number. What we'll do is we'll try that method and we'll see if we can get it to be the same as the book method, the table method. I always do a couple methods so we can check it out. But if you can learn to do it really exact, then that method's really easy and that works good too.
Which of the methods have you kind of preferred?
I use the table.
The table.
Because I know the math is right, and then all I got to do, and framing is it's up to they used to say a quarter. I never say that much, but it's like an 1/8 inch tolerance everywhere. And so, if you hook something on, like if you have the bottom of a ridge and you hook on it, that's because it's at an angle. It's going to be a little bit further. When you hook it, it's going to be a little bit further than the accurate measurement, but only about that, 16. So I cut it first and then I hook it on there and then I bring it down. I can just mark it. You can do that alone. Well, you can do the step off alone too. But then you just mark it and then you make a bird's mouth. And I think that's simple. But you'll see when we do it, which one appeals to you. Yeah, for guys who don't have a strong math background and don't like math, then the step down is really good because it's just mechanical. There's no real computation. So, okay, so like I said, Did you guys have calculator? Well, you have your phones, right? So everybody has a calculator here. So say our slope triangle is like this. And no, let's take 3. Because that's what I'm gonna try to keep talking 312, because that's what we're gonna do out there, we decided. I go back and forth, so some of the stuff has 4 already written on it. So, anyway, Pythagorean theorem works only for right triangles, and you square this. So if you've forgotten what square means, it's just multiplied by itself. So that's 140, that's always 144, and then this is 9. It's at 153. So then this is the square root of 153. So if you take your calculator and do, first turn it on, then do 153 and then hit the square root button, you get 12.37, say. Now, when you have a low angle roof up to pretty high, 612, this one's not going to be, it's still going to be in the 12. It's not even going to be 13 feet yet. So this will be an even 12, and this will be 12, somewhere between 12 and 13. When it gets higher, it'll start getting more of it. And our roofs are all, so it's, this isn't a well, I drew it fat so you could see it, but let's see how many degrees that. Remember I told you in the tables, they have the degree equivalents. So on 899 on the 12th edition, 3 and 12 would be 14 degrees. That's not very steep, right? 30 is about like, you know, those drafting triangles, 30, 60, it's about like that. And this is almost half of that. So this isn't it's actually more like this. I'm going to draw them fat though, so you can see them better. Now, the problem with Pythagorean, but it also is true for the framing square method, which we'll do in a second, is that you end up with the decimal fraction in both of those ways. And so you've got to convert that to feet and inches, right? That you can measure. So with stair stuff and with rafter design, you have to keep your inches and feet straight. You know, you have to be clear what you're talking about. This is 12.37 feet. We normally don't talk about feet that way in building. We say it's 12 feet 6 inches or 12 feet 3 inches. So we've got to take 12 and make it into 12, and that's like almost a third. 33 would be a third. So it's going to be somewhere around 5/16. So we want to know exactly what it is. So there's a way to do that. And some of you have seen this 100 times, but it never hurts to go over it. So if we want to convert a decimal to a common fraction, we just put it over 100. It's 3,700, so it's 3,700. And then we just make a proportion. That'll 3,700 will be so many 16ths, and that's what we're looking for. Whatever we want that number, that x. So we just cross multiply. So we go 37 times 16 divided by 100, and that gives us this number. So somebody want to do that? You're gonna make me do all the work tonight. If you got a calculator, do 37 times 16 and divide by 100, or you could just move the decimal.
5.92.
37 times 16 is what?
5.92. Well, it would be 592.
592?
Uh-huh. And then
Well, oh yeah, okay.
5.92.
And then we go 1, 2, right? Decimal places for 100, or you could divide 592 by 100 either way. And you get 5.9, and that's x. So that's the number of 16ths you have. And since you can't measure 5.9, we round it up or down. So this would go up. So this is 16. 33 is a third, which would be 5, so yeah, it stands to reason it would go up. So when you fix, so we just say 9/16. So this is 12 feet. Oh, wait, I might have done it wrong. I did do it wrong. I told you what to be aware of, and I wasn't. So 16 has to do with 16 inches, right? Fractions of inches, but we're still doing feet. So can you guys press the reset button? Okay, sorry, my fault. So it's 3,700 feet, right? So then we go to 12. When we're dealing with feet, we have to divide by 12. So 12 times 37. Somebody want to do that?
444.
44?
Yeah, 400.
444? Okay, it's hard to hear you because you got your mouse on. So so that's going to be under 5, right? It'll be 4.5, 4.4416. So that'll be, that's under 5, so we'll go down. So it'll just be 4/16. No,
You got this.
okay.
time.
We're getting there.
Third time's the
It's like
charm.
2 steps back and 1 step forward. So we said that was 4, right? So it's gonna be 4 inches. Does that make sense?
I'm lost.
Actually, that was 4.44, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to that.
You're gonna do it backwards.
No,
No.
it's gonna be 4/12, and then it's gonna be God, it's been 2 years since I taught this, so I'm rusty. We don't even have to do this, so I'm only gonna spend a little more time on it. So so it's 12 feet, so it's 0.37 hundredths of a foot. And that would be 4.44 inches. Right?
Mhm.
Now we're talking. Yeah. So 4/12 of a foot is 4 inches, right? That's the way that works. It's a fraction, but we know it's going to be in inches because there's 12 inches to the foot. So that's going to be, so it's going to be 12 feet for, and now we got to take that 44 and make that into inches. So 0.44 is 44 hundredths. That equals 16ths. So there's a way you can double check all this because sometimes the math gets complicated. So this is a third of a foot, a little over a third of a foot, right? 12.37, 0.3 is a little over a third. So you know it's got to be 4 inches a third of a foot. So it's going to be bigger than 4 inches. So okay, that number is right. Sometimes when you multiply, you're not sure what you get. It has to be over 4 because if it were 3/3, it would be 4, but it's 3/7, so it's going to be a little more than 4. And you can check the same thing here. This is just under a half, right? 44 hundredths, 50 hundredths would be a half. So the answer is going to be, it's going to be a little over under a half. So this is going to be somewhere around 7/16, 8/16 to the half. And you know, if you do this a lot and you're doing roofs, you don't even need to do the math. You do this so many times, you can just tell, you can tell that and go, well, 50 hundredths would be 8/16, that's going to be 7. And you're going to be within that 1/8 of an inch, flexion and framing. So, but if we were to do it, somebody multiply 44 by 16 for me.
704.
704. And that's under, so 7/16. So this will be 12'4" and 7/16 would be our theoretical ridge length. So most of the time, we're not going from feet and then inches, and so we're dividing by 12 and then 16. And that's where you get confused. I mean, that's where I just got confused. But this is just the base way they did it all. Now I don't even think they had a computer. They probably had one guy do this for all slopes. And they did the math, and when they got all the results, they put the results on here. So all the algorithms done behind the scenes, and you just get this kind of code. But this is no code. This is actually if you do it just with geometry. And you can see you got to do this. You've got decimals that have to change feet to inches and have to change decimals to 1/16 of an inch so you can measure it. So you got a double translation. So that's, if you're good at math, you'll get good at that. But if proportions kind of freak you out and you don't want to multiply, I mean, the main conception is this right here, this kind of proportion, whether it's 12 or 16. If you can solve that by multiplying these together, dividing by that one, that gives you X. If you can do that, then it's fine. Some people can't make that jump. It's a little abstract for some people, so don't do it. We got other ways to solve that. I haven't done the Pythagorean theorem thing in about 10 years, so what the framing screw will be bad enough. I've done that. Yeah.
Are you gonna put a question like this on the midterm and the final?
No, I'm going to tell you what's going to be on it
Okay,
before.
but no math like this?
Oh, there'll be not like this.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be the, like I may, because you'll never use this, so I don't want you to get used to it. I just want you to see how the whole thing's derived.
Okay,
You'll probably use tables or that square method,
got it.
And I may have something on the tables, like I may give you a table on the test and say, and it'll have the slope and the run on it, and then you have to find the rafter length. And we're going to do that in a couple of minutes here. So I know I went the long way because I made mistakes. Everybody okay with that?
Mhm.
You don't have to perfect that. I'm just wanting you to get the idea. Now we'll do the methods that are simpler, derived from that, but much simpler. So let's do the framing square, and then the tables will look like heaven when we get done with this. So everybody come up. No, John, no. Can you pass out a square to everybody? That's not asking too much in the COVID world. Yeah, good. How come you knew not to take that one?
Oh, it was singled out.
I brought that one because it's thicker than your usual, and it's aluminum, so it's that light gray, no rust, but it doesn't have the tables on it. So when you go, you want to make sure you have the tables on. One side's for engineering tables and one side. So we want to hold it with our tongue in our right hand. Right. This is the tongue, this is the body. Did you remember the tongue's smaller than a body? The book might, they have different names, but so you hold the little one in the right hand and you're going to use these tables. They've got, I don't even know what these tables on the back are. But this is the set we want. And some of them, they're old squares and they may be a little rusty, but I think you can see enough to get the idea. So the slope, you got two numbers, right? The run and the slope. Those are always the information you plug into these various methods. Here we're going to plug the slope into the numbers. It's the top numbers of the framing square from 0 to 24. So that's the slope. It's a 3. If it's a 312, you take the 3-inch number. If it's a 912, you take the 9-inch, number 9, and you use the tables below those numbers. So every slope has its own column underneath it. Everybody got that? Okay, and then what those columns stands for is spelled out on the very left. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows in each column. And the first row is common rafter length per foot run. Ooh, that's handy. And the second one's hip or valley rafter length per foot run. So when we get to the hips, we can use this there. Different in length of jacks. That's really useful. You know, jacks are coming off at a 45-degree angle, and once we have the first jack, we can just subtract a certain amount because it's all proportional. So once you get that amount, you can just keep subtracting, and you can find that on here. Difference in length of jacks for 2 different spacings, 16 and 24. Side cut, forget that. Yeah, the bottom 2 we don't need. So let's take the 3, since we're doing 312. The first number is the length of the rafter per foot run. So if we have a 12-foot run, like we looked on that first sheet, we just called that 12 foot. That would mean the building was 24 feet across. And we took half, so that's 12. So if you had a 12-foot run, then you find the first number in the slope column. In this case, it's 3, and it's 12.7. And you're going to multiply that by 12, by whatever the run is. If the run's 6, you're going to multiply 6 times 12.37. Because it's common rafter length per foot run. So for every foot, you have that length. So that's how they lay it out. So let's do, somebody do 12 times 12.37.
$148.44.
Okay, so that's the length of our rafter, theoretical length. And so how many, if we were to put that into feet and inches, that's all inches. So on the framing square method, the number you're going to end with is in inches. So you got to know that, right? So this is in inches. So if we took feet out of there, how many feet would we have? So we divide 12 into that and we get 144, right? So this is the same as 12 feet. And then it's 4 inches, 4.44. Does that look familiar? It should look familiar. That's right. Right here.
Is that the length to the bird's mouth, or does that include like?
That's the bird's mouth that we haven't subtracted the ridge amount yet.
Okay.
We haven't adjusted for the ridge. So see, these are the same. We got one from Pythagorean theorem, but this you don't need to do the Pythagorean theorem. You just need to find the tables. So they've done that math, and then they just put the final number down for you. So that's a little bit handier. You still have the problem of changing that into
Inches.
yeah, and this one we already got the feet in and just only need to do the 0.44 inches. So that would be the 16 one. That would be this one. Now, if you have a construction calculator, and if you're not, and what I mean by not good at this kind of math is if you don't know your times tables, for instance, that's a huge part of this. Because you can't do math without a calculator unless you know, if you're multiplying and dividing, unless you know your times tables. And a lot of us don't know them. It's been a long time since school. Some people never learn them. The rebels never learn them. So you'll have to use a calculator of some kind. And that's fine. But the regular calculators will help you out, but these construction ones are just terrific because they convert that without having to use the proportion. So you type in 0.44. I gotta remember how to do this. They change. 0.44 inch, right? You gotta push the inch button. I'll do this on maybe I'll do this on the projector. So you type in 40.44. I typed in period, then 4 and 4. Then I push the inch button, right there, it says inch. That's important because it could be feet or yards or something. And then I think, no,
You hit enter or you hit equal. and
no,
then
they're,
you
they
hit
all
again.
work different. I think I just put inch again. No, that's square. It used to be you could just do,
It's 0.44 inch equal, and then you can hit inch again.
oh, equal,
Yeah, so
and then you can hit inch again. Okay. There's another way to do it too, is convert, because I never do it that way, but when you get it right, it's 7/16. So it just goes from 0.44 to 7/16. You don't need to do the proportion. So that's pretty handy, huh? Even if your math is good, it's still handy. And if you're doing this a lot, then it's really handy. If you're doing roofs every day, because that's what you do for your framing company, then it's pretty useful to have one of these. Let me see if I can do it, because I rarely do it that way, so.
are we gonna go over designing rafters just using the calculator? Or is that not worth it? I'm just using the rise and run diagonal.
No, I don't think it's worth it. You want to give a lesson on that at the end of these three?
Sure.
Okay, next week. Okay. I don't like. I think that one's okay. That is okay on the calculator. A lot of the stuff you need to do, like layout, you can't do because you have that short bay, that 15 1/4 bay and then 16. And the calculator requires exact measures. So anything that does that, but this I think is okay. So yeah, we can do it that way. So maybe you put inch first. You know, I use these so often. I mean, not so often. So let's go 0.44 inch. Oh, you press convert and then you press inch again. So you can do either that or with equals, either one. And I can show you on the, not today, but I'll show you on the projector exactly how I punch it.
Is that just
I
a
think it
Texas,
slows up.
is that a Texas Instruments calculator or?
No,
Instruments.
calculated industries, they've got a, I think Texas Instruments was always the first to have them, but now they got a bunch of spin-off companies that do it.
Okay.
And like, if you go to Home Depot, they sell this kind, that's where I get it.
Got it.
And it's a Construction Master 5, isn't that the biggest, latest?
Yeah.
I've gone through a bunch of them, they change the names each time, so. And they come down in price, they used to be a lot more, just like all those kind of electronic things, over the years, they come down, so they're. Anybody bought one recently? I think they must be like $30 now.
I've only bought the app recently. The app's over $50 up for your phone,
Oh, wow.
but it works great.
Yeah, I forgot, it's that generation, so a lot of you guys want everything on apps, so they have a lot of apps for them.
Thought the Apple was gone around there.
Oh, they've got 100 apps that you can get, that's the problem, you gotta pick the right one. But yeah, I like separate, I like separate instruments.
That one's like $30.
Yeah,
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 something like
it
that.
used to be like 50 or 60 and they keep coming down, I think it must be around 30. It's pretty useful.
You think it's worth it?
If you're framing, if you're working in that, if that's gonna be your field.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, even though I do a lot of stuff by hand, you know, partly I do it so I keep it fresh, you know, in my mind, so I can still do it. Because if you don't practice your times tables, even if you knew them back in high school or elementary school, if you don't use them, you're gonna forget them. Okay. So the framing square has decimals, and when you multiply by, now you could have a run that's not an even number, right? So say you have a house that's 15 feet wide, or a garage or something. So 7.5 would be the run, the span's 15. So then it would be 7.5. So you multiply 12.37 by 7.5. So that's no big deal because you're just multiplying decimals on your calculator. But if you had, usually architects try to get fairly even numbers. They don't always succeed, but they might not have even numbers, which would be ideal for having from the span to the run. But if, just so it's a whole number, like 15, 14, 7, but 15 would be 7.5. The whole number is not, if you're dealing with a 1.5 for the run, that's not too bad. But if it gets really, like say it's 14 foot, 6 inches is the thing. So you're going to have that to 7 foot 3 inches. Then you got to put, that's got to be a foot. So you just put 3/12 and you get 1/4 of a foot. So then it'd just be 7.25 inches. So you have to convert to a decimal, whatever you're given. So hopefully it's a whole or half, it's not a big deal to do it, but you always got to convert to a decimal because you're going to multiply, because these are put in decimals. So that's if you have a construction calculator, then this works fine. You don't have to do that long conversion. The tables, you don't have to do anything. So it's just one step better, So let's look at those. That was the second method, but let's go back to it. So the last page on this handout,
Unless you have non-even numbers, right? And then you have to calculate it.
I'm sorry, what?
Unless you have non-even numbers, then you have to calculate it, right? Like if you're building a shed and you're trying to fill a space, so it's like, 3 inches instead of a half.
Yeah.
A full foot, then
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to calculate. You can't use the table for that.
Right, but if you have you'll have it in feet and inches. I mean, that's how you measure it, or that's how the architect will give it.
Right.
And so you have to convert inches to fractions of feet. So whatever the inches are, just put it over 12, and that's what it is. But is that, that in itself?
Right.
So say it's 7 foot 3 inches is your run, and you're going to multiply it by the 12.37 for the 312 roof. So this has got to be a decimal. It can't be in, like we said, it can't be in inches and feet. So you got to make this 7 point something. So the way you do that is you just put this over 12, and you get a 1/4. So that's easy because a 1/4 is 0.25. But say that was let's say 5. That's a nasty draw. So what would you do? How would you convert that to a decimal? Seven foot 5. So 5 inch would be 5/12, right? Always put it over 12. But then if it's 4/12, you can make it 1/3 and do 0.33. But all you got to do is just make that into a decimal. So you just take your calculator and you just divide 12 into 5. And you get a little under half, right? Somebody do that?
4.2.
4.2?
0.42.
Yeah. And then this is 7.42 times that. So you got 2 decimals. So always when you're trying to convert inches to a decimal, we're so used to feet and inches because that's how we measure. But when you start calculating, you got to change that feet and inches to feet and fractions of feet in a decimal form. So but anytime you can get to a fraction, you can get a decimal because you just divide the top by the bottom. So that's pretty straightforward. Okay, so you're on this sheet, right? These are great questions. So this is the 4 and 12. The one I copied was this is each page that faces each other in the book. Each page is for one slope, or each 2 pages, the pages that face each other. Each one, they have a whole setup for each slope by half. So 1.5, 12, 2, 12, 2.5, 12, all the way up to, I don't know what they go up to.
What's that book called? You said you were gonna tell us. what
The
it's
Rafter book.
called. Raft.
Yeah, I'll pass it around. There's a Spanish one too, which is great. So it goes up to 22, probably 24, 24 and 12. That's a big, that's a big hunk of sleep. And your book has those tables, but this book, they go by span, which is the whole width of that wall. And this goes by run, which is half. So you just got to pay attention that, so you don't plug in the wrong number. I don't know why they do span. It's because it's an old, these tables are old. And in the old days, they use span for other things more often, but nobody uses it anymore. So the newer books just have runs. But this is really handier. This has more data than your book. So it's, you know, you can use this, but if you're doing a lot of these rooms, this has just a lot, you know, it has all the data you need. And then on the other page, it has a lot of really cool information about each slope and stuff. So you can learn a lot from it too. And they also have the whole beginning of the book has all kinds of information on framing and using a square. It's really useful. So it's a really good book. It's not, the Sun's, no, it wouldn't be the same price. If Buena Tool doesn't have it, Amazon will have it. So it's Rafter book and it's by, want me to write it down?
Sure.
David McIntyre. Why are you thinking? These Gaelic names, you know, who the hell knows how they spell them. I've seen it, wiry, but
And that's different to the pamphlet or whatever you said that comes with the square.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Wasn't there a book or a pamphlet that you said comes with the square? when you
Yeah.
buy it?
Yeah, I think so. John, is that right? I have to check with John.
Swanson's speed square.
Yeah.
The speed square comes with one for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not, no, actually, I don't think the framing square does.
Okay.
If you buy the set of speed squares, you buy one, they have it, but I don't think it's as good as that book. It's a little different format.
Okay.
Uh,
I guess it-
The book.
I guess it
Yeah.
The
depends
book has
where you-
tables.
Yeah,
I guess it depends where you buy a speed square, because I bought them and haven't done anything.
Yeah, and I'll show you how to do you can do and the book, well, the book doesn't show you, the book's got it all screwed up. Sometimes I think those guys don't do the stuff that they show, and they just do the drawings, like they make it out of their mind. The top cut is the same, and the angle, that's easy to do on a speed square, and I'll show you how that works. But you have to, the way they show to get this horizontal line, it doesn't make any sense to me, but
How much did he pay for that book?
I think it's like 20, between 20 and 30.
That's going to be more.
What is it?
So like, they're over 100. That one exact book is over 100.
Are you kidding? Where, is that Amazon?
Yeah, 189 on Amazon,
Search on
100.
Google. Search on Google.
138 at that book.
Whoa,
Oh, give me a freaking
Cheapest
break.
one I found was eBay for $70.
that's insane.
Gold mine.
So I won't pass.
I
it.
can't quite read it. It's faint.
Retirement, Patrick.
It's gonna disappear.
Actually, Spanish.
They might steal it.
Maybe I'll photocopy all of that and just hand it out.
That's crazy.
That is insane. No, that was really between 30 and 40 bucks.
Wow.
it's like 20
Should've bought
bucks.
10 or something.
Huh?
Yeah, they're $17.95.
A used one?
What's the new one?
Where's that
Buildersbooks.com.
Okay, there you go.
Also, write that builder's book, what?
.com.
Buildersbook.com.
All one word?
Yeah, it may be there's actually, they have an instructional book that goes along with that about building roofs and that, maybe like your textbooks are over $100.
So maybe that's
You may be seeing that.
Well, here's one, which is, it was at 239, now it's at 45.
At 45? Well, that's closer to between 20 and 30, isn't it? Well, things are inflating, so I bought this, 10 years ago. But usually, I can estimate, usually if I pay 25, it'll go up 30, 35 in that time, but I think recently everything's jumped. Also, here's another thing to remember. The publishers, you can also go to the publisher, maybe that's the publisher, I don't know. And they often sell it for, like you can go to this publisher and get it for about this, cheaper than the school anyway. Not cheaper than Amazon, but this is Joseph Publishing Maui. That's a great place for publishing. These are two different. That is so ridiculous. I mean, look at this.
Tiny, yeah.
How much does it cost to print that?
Maybe it's the shipping from Maui.
Yeah, porpoise, it's a porpoise shipping.
Well,
The
on
property
Amazon,
taxes.
that book's, like he says, $189.02.
You're paying for Joseph's retirement.
And then there's $3 and $4 worth of shipping.
Oh, okay, never mind. It's not the medium.
Yeah, there's something really fluky about that. I mean, that's insane. But, so try these other,
Yeah, because there's other ones that, but they're not the same.
yeah, so you might look into, Amazon has that thing, you can look into it and you can just see if the tables, you'll have this from this book, so you can compare this to the tables and see if they're remotely. They have to be identical to this because this has, well, we'll go over it, but it has the common rafter and then it has the hip rafters for that same slope. And then it has the span in feet and inches. You need all 4 of those columns to be complete. So as long as they have those, you're okay. If they don't, then it's bogus somehow. That's so discouraging.
Do you have any information on what they do with the metric system, like in other countries? How are they doing it? I'm just curious. I'm
No, I
not
know.
trying to
Well, I
complicate
get that question quite a lot. And
Is it centimeters and meters, I guess, or?
yeah, but see, because they don't use, has anybody worked in a country with metric system on roofs? You might have done building, but not necessarily roofs. I don't know how you'd replicate the slope,
Right,
the 412.
yeah.
And, it's not just feet. You could just treat the 12 as an abstract number, right? It probably came from feet originally, because 12 was a number carpenters worked with and where that came from. But 12 and 4, that slope, you don't have to think of it as feet. You can just think of it as 12 as an abstract number and 4. And then within that, use decimals to figure stuff. So if you want to do a proportion, there was a 412 slope, and let's see, it was 20 meters was your run. That's a pretty big run. Let's say 10 meters. That's still pretty big. Let's say 5 meters. Then you just figure out that this is 1/3, so it'd be 1/3 of 5. In decimals, that would be your, is that right? This is 5 meters, then this would be 1/3 of 5. Let's say this is 6 meters. Then this would be 1/3, because this is 1/3. The great thing about 12 as a base is that there's so many numbers that divide into 12 evenly. 2, 3, 4, 6, 5 is the odd one. So if you have any of those things, you can, and it's really, well, I'll show you as we go on, it's really handy to reduce that to a smaller fraction, like 1 and 3 or 1 and 4 or 3/12. You can manipulate really quickly. But this is the ratio of the slope, and if you had a 6 meter run, then your rise would be a third of 6 meters, or 4/12 of 6 meters, which would be 2 meters. So I guess that, and then if you had fractions, you just have to use decimals. You'd never leave decimals, which would be really great. Because everything on your calculator would be, that would be the final answer. You wouldn't have any conversion. But I would suspect they probably use 12 for slope for the run. But I don't know. I can look that up because I might have looked it up a while back because I get that question every few years. So this page, right? So this also has the degrees with the slope, which is kind of cool. So 4/12 is an 18 degrees about, and 3/12 is 14 degrees. So we'll look at this when we do the hip rafter in a couple of weeks. So we just want to do the left-hand tables, let's say common rafter. So you find the page that has a slope. That's the first thing. There's a page for each slope, so that's pretty easy.
Where are you seeing 3/12?
I'm not, we're doing 4/12.
Oh,
The roof we're doing out in back's 3/12.
oh, okay.
So or maybe we should do 4/12 because I've been doing 4/12. What do you want to do? We haven't made them, we haven't cut anything yet, so. Want to do 4/12 so we can use this, everybody can use it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's only a little bit, it's steeper, so everything will be a little bit longer, but on that size, it's only like an inch or two longer, so it's not a problem. Okay, we'll do 4/12, okay? And then more of the stuff will match. So, so you've got common rafters, that's the set of, that first left-hand set of columns we're working with. The left-hand one is the feet of the span. So if the building's 10 foot 6 inches, you go to the 10 number, because that's under the feet span, and you'd copy down that number, which is 5 foot 3 1/4. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
And then you go to 6 for the inches, 10 foot 6. You go to 10 foot under feet, write that number down. Then you go to the 6 inches under the inches one, and that's 3 3/16. You see that? And then you just add those together. So it's 5 foot 6 and 7/16, something like that. And that's it. That's your theoretical rafter length. If you don't know how to add fractions, you're out of luck, but that's pretty. But you know, again, adding 3 1/4 to 3 3/16, there might be students who can't do that. So in that trade math class, you know, the CT113 that we have, oh, Rodney's teaching that in fall. That's the kind of stuff they'll review, is making sure you can add and subtract fractions and multiply. It's basic stuff. We usually spend like a you know, a day on the fractions, maybe 2 sessions at the most. Just so the people who are rusty can try to have it. You can do a lot of stuff with a calculator, but there's still a few things you have to sort of arrange and line up with your own mind.
Would you mind just going through that example once more?
Yes, let's take the one that's circled here. So say it had a span of 8 foot 8 inches. Then you go to 8 feet on the first one, and it says 4 foot 2 5/8. And then you go to 8 inches on the second one, and that says
4 3/16.
and then add those. So this is from the feet column, this is from the inch column. So that's 4 foot 6. And so we got to change this to 16ths to add these. So this is 10/16 and 3/16, so that's 13/16. Right?
Okay.
So that's pretty darn simple, huh? I mean, you are going to have to, this was under 1, these two, but if they were numbers that added up to more than an inch, you have to carry, you know, when you get 12 of them, you have to carry it over, or 16 or 16, you have to carry it over. So that's another thing you have to review, that we review in that class, just so everybody remembers how to carry over, number fractions and a lot of little tiny math steps, but it's good to review them. So that's it. That's pretty simple, huh? That's why I like this. So you get a length like 4.6. So that span is 8.8 and ours is 8 foot out there. So actually we could figure our rafter for tonight. Let's do it. So it's 8'0". So it's only the feet, right? Because remember we measured that side of the building, we made it on purpose 8, so it's about 8. So it'd actually just be 4.2 5/8.
And then do you have to add on the overhang past the bird's mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You have to determine that, like now, like, oh, it's gonna be a foot of overhang
no, you don't, the bird's mouth,
or past the overhang past it?
the tail.
Yeah,
Yeah, so when we're gonna cut it, you have to get the right size wood, so you have to know it. But you just have to know it approximately. So and they measure overhangs like this. They measure it horizontally. So we're gonna have a foot overhang out there because we don't have a lot of room. Usually it's 2 feet. Then our little mini house, we're gonna put 1 foot. And so this is the hypotenuse of that triangle, right? So that's gonna be a little bit longer than 1 foot. But it's a 412 slope, so it's not gonna be a lot longer. So you could just go 1.5 foot would be plenty.
Okay.
So you could add 18 inches for your, 18 inches long for those middle pieces. The end one, so you cut 2 or 4 for each side. We have a hip on one side, so we're only going to cut 2 because we won't have an end common rafter on that side because it's a hip roof. But for the common one, we need 2 that are exact on each side, and then we're going to snap a line between them. So all the rest would just be this 18 inches longer, and then we would actually we'll figure this in a second to see exactly how much longer that is. The bird's mouth we have to know too, because we have to cut that, right? Do you guys need a break? Want to take a little break? Let me go a little bit and see where. Go to your book. Let's at least finish the table thing. So it's $8.99 in the 12th edition. And it's I'll give you $100 if you can beat me to it on that. No, too late. $9.43 in the 11th edition. I have to be quick on that because I don't really have $100. So see that 899 and 943? It has your slope on top. Instead of a whole page, it's a fraction of a page. And so they've got 3 and 12, which is what, no, we're doing 4 and 12, sorry. And look at now this is run. See on the left, it says feet of run. And on your page, your handout, it says feet of span feet. So whatever table you're using, wherever you get it, you got to make sure you're talking right. So our span is what? Our run is what? If our span is 8 feet,
4 feet.
yeah, our run is half of that. So half of 8 is 4, so it's that top one, 4.2, 1930 seconds. Oh, give me a break. So how are you going to measure 1930 seconds when your tape only goes to 16ths? That's the kind of stuff that kills me. So, I mean, you can round it off, right? So it's half of that. So what's half of 19? 10 16ths, 5/8. Oh, look, it's 5/8. So, yeah, so they're the same. Are they all 30 seconds or just occasionally? No, they have quite a few. So you see how this book works? You go to the 4 and 12, you go to the slope, and then you go to the length of the run, which is half the span. And notice that it has 12.65 per foot. That's the rafter number. If you went to the under the 4-inch on the rafter, you'd have 12.65. That's that, second red box. All right, but see, it's got runs of, okay, now that has the feet run. Remember we did feet and then we did inches? Instead of having them next to each other, this has them on top of each other. So feet of run, the feet's the first part, the top, and then look down, it goes inches of run. So you just add that you add those two together. We're 4-0 or 8-0, so we don't have to deal with inches. But that gives you feet of run. It doesn't have, so it's got one page, so it goes up to 8 and 12. And the book went up to 24 and 12, right? So, around here, you're probably not going to do many over 8 and 12. 12 and 12 is a feet square, right? You don't even see that many roofs that sloped. So probably these tables would do you, but, the book goes up to 24, has more. And what else does it have? It goes to 50 feet of span, which would be 25 of run, and this goes to 16 of run. So this won't do larger buildings. So this is limited. It's kind of to show you, but you could use it. But this one goes to wider buildings and to more slopes. That's the main difference. Plus it has a lot of information, but then this has a lot of information too. So you've got all the framing square method. Let's do the framing square method and the bird's mouth figuring after break, and then we'll go out and cut the first one. All we got to do is lay out and cut the first one for tonight. I had a variation. I wanted to get at least that, and if we had time, we would have got to cutting a couple more, but we can cut those really fast on Wednesday and put up the first thing. So let's do that. Let's take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come and finish that off. Coffee again? You stayed up all night last time?
Yeah. No, I haven't had any food. I get jittery.
Oh, yeah, I hear you.
Thank you.
Sure. What?
Nothing.
So this is understandable, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it freaks people out, which is why they don't become roof builders.
Yeah, no, it just takes a little bit to wrap your head around it.
Yeah,
I
I think as we do it, it'll gel even more because, this is two-dimensional on a board, but when you're out there with the thing, so.
I'm still just trying to understand the technical terms, of everything, because I don't have any real experience
Yeah.
with this, so,
So as long as you got slope, span, and run,
yeah,
that's all you need for any of these methods.
right.
So,
Hey, do you happen to know, so here we use like Phillips heads a lot, with our screws.
yeah.
Do you happen to know, like in other countries, like Canada, for instance, they're using the star, kind of bit.
Yeah.
And it catches way better. It doesn't strip as easy. I'm just kind of curious why, here.
Well, it's the learning curve. If you can find those star ones or any of the new ones,
Yeah,
and they're everywhere in every size, and they get the price down to what the others were, or close to it,
right.
then everybody will use them, but they're still in that kind of specialty phase.
They just seem so much better.
Well, they are, but it depends on what you need it for.
Okay,
If it's a one-time screw, like when you're screwing in the sheathing,
right,
it's one time, and you're not gonna strip it and it's gonna work.
right.
They call those things, you mentioned in Canada, they call it plus.
Is that what it's called? I'm not really sure.
No, in Japan, they call it plus and minus.
Oh, really?
That's pretty good, huh?
They use.
Leave it to the
Phillips
Japanese to get down to the nub.
number. Yeah,
What'd you say? You didn't say plusa, did
I
you?
said star, like the star ones.
Oh, yeah, but I mean on the regular, the Phillips screwdriver.
Phillips, yeah,
Yeah, they would never say Phillips. It's not a Japanese word. They just
Right.
say plus and minus.
yeah.
And there's another one they use too. I can't remember what it is. I mean, we use Phillips and don't we still say slotted for the straight line?
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, that was the old name.
My neighbor, he was a contractor and he used to bring those star bit
Yeah.
screws on the job sites.
Right.
And the guy he was working for would just get so pissed off at him. Yeah, they work so much better though.
Well, they work, but they give you like a couple of bits in the packet
Right.
of screws.
The bits are what strip, not the screws.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the bits, if you lose them, then you're stuck, right?
Right.
'Cause-
Yeah.
With a slotted or a Phillips, it's universal and you always have those. Even if you have to do it by hand, you'll at least have the right to it.
Right.
So those have to be more, like if you get those little packs of driver heads,
Yeah, like the little.
they'll have all that stuff. Then you lose it, but if you can keep, I mean, that's part of it. You have to be responsible for the pieces and
Right.
they do work better. They're great. I don't think they're faster though. They're easy to get in and out of.
Yeah,
I mean, I've used them, but I mean, are they as easy as the slotted?
yeah, I like them a lot.
Yeah.
Did you guys put in for any COVID funding with your department?
No,
Nah,
I mean,
there was.
well, we probably Rodney got this stuff because he did a class earlier than me.
Okay.
So he probably bought all the disinfectant and stuff with school money.
Yeah, you could do proposals for things that would make classes easier and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know what we do, but
New tools, fun toys, That's what we did.
really,
Yeah, oh yeah, we got a bunch of stuff.
well, how does that have to do with
I
COVID?
just got a new roto hammer the other day.
But how does that justify for COVID?
So we got like 16 grand for to install new irrigation.
Mike told me there was money in the, what are those grants?
He finagled a bunch of money for us.
Yeah, there's another grant that we get every year. What's that called? I forgot.
It's not Pell.
No, it's not. I go to think of Pell. It's simple like that. You're right.
It's what funds me, I think, in the TA position. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I'll think of it in a second, but he said our dean has that money. But we can never get, because I mean, he's the temporary chair, but he doesn't know what tools we need, because he's not a
No.
carpenter.
Yeah,
So that falls on us, and we're so busy, you really can't ask adjuncts to do that stuff because it's above and beyond their pay grade,
to figure out what to.
And I do it because I'm helping Mike help our department.
Yeah, I noticed you kind of have a bunch of different brands of tools. I'm kind of interested in that, like, why not just go with one line of tools?
Well,
Because all the batteries aren't interchangeable and stuff, so it's like, why not just have like Makitas or,
Yeah, I mean, we have for drivers, right?
Yeah, it's like some Milwaukee's and I think.
Are the red Milwaukee
Yeah,
in there? Yeah, we have Milwaukee. I always got the blue, which are what?
Makita, I think.
Makita.
Or they're like teal, like blue green.
Yeah. I always got, and somebody said when we were buying them, someone said, oh, you should get Milwaukee too. So I got each of those. We need more of those.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten in a while. Yeah. When you get, for those drivers, those are fine. But when you get like a 1/2-inch drill,
Yeah,
I still think Milwaukee's probably still better.
Yeah.
They're heavier tools, not
Right.
their DIY line, but their
the
progression line.
the Milwaukee Reds or whatever. Yeah. I have a couple
And
of those.
we have their Sawzall.
Works pretty well.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, I used to like when I started, some of those companies gone out of business. So there was Rockwell
Okay.
and they got bought out. I think,
Are they Festool now or something?
no,
like
they're
that?
not
No?
Festo, but they're one of the two. I think they got bought out, but there was a Tiger Sawzall.
Uh-huh.
And it was gray and black. And I think that was Rockwell's color, but there was another company too. And that was the best. I love that because it had more power.
Right. You're talking about battery power? Or?
No,
corded?
just the cord. But, they had the most power. So I always got one. And then they discontinued because they got bought out and then everybody switched to Milwaukee.
Okay.
And the Milwaukee's been developing their line. They're pretty good. I haven't done any non-cord tools.
It's interesting, all those brands are getting into like landscaping stuff now, like Makita has a whole line of landscaping
Well,
stuff.
you know, finally we could ban the blowers like it's on the books.
Oh, yeah, so now it's all electric.
Well, they're still using gas at a lot of places, you know, Mike.
In the county, you can still use gas, yeah, not in the city.
Yeah, they don't enforce that, but,
Yeah.
because electrical ones, when the cord was the alternative for a long time.
Right.
You can't drag it, that's just, that's
Tripping
crazy.
hazard, yeah.
But now that they got batteries and they had gas for a while, gas cartridges, are they still making those or are they just?
I haven't seen that.
They had gas for a while, but then I think the batteries got good enough to bypass those.
Yeah, Milwaukee's got like chainsaws and.
Yeah, once you
blowers
get,
and
yeah, once you get those kind of batteries and for landscapers, they should, for their blowers, they
The
should
whole chainsaws and everything.
you know, they can go home and plug them in at their jobs, at their headquarters or whatever.
Yeah, we have a bunch of steel stuff and we just started getting the Makitas. And the Makitas are like more powerful than the steel, which I mean, they're a landscaping
Oh, wow.
brand. So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tools change, you know, like I don't want to learn the new stuff because I'm at the end of my career
Right.
and I shouldn't even be teaching now, but I'm doing stuff that takes all my brain capacity and I just don't want to mess with it.
Yeah. I got a couple of Milwaukee's, but now I'm really kind of impressed with all the Makita stuff. You know?
Makita?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are too good. You know, the ones that Home Depot has, which is, what's their line?
Ryobi.
Ryobi,
Yeah.
those are not as professional. They're more
They're cheap.
homeowner ones, yeah.
Yeah.
The DIY wires.
Yeah.
Super affordable though.
They are. I mean,
Like
they,
for a table saw or
they have
something,
their place.
tile saw.
Yeah, and I mean, even professionals use them. They don't last as long and they're not as powerful or this and that, but,
Yeah.
oh yeah, they have their place. And a lot of times you can't, when you're starting out, you can't afford to buy the best tools. They're just too expensive.
Right.
But when you get into that and you have the money, then there's a definite set that are better.
It's worth it.
But that's changing. That'll change too, you know?
Yeah.
It's the nature of capitalism. Most countries will buy each other out, those companies.
Seems like a couple of them have been solid though.
Well, Rockwell was part of, you know, the aerospace industry.
You know, my dad works for a company called Rockwell up in the Bay. They
Was it-
deal with electric vehicles.
No, it could be the
Like they
same. It could be a
manufacture-
division of
Maybe
it.
maybe they transition. Have you
Yeah.
seen that new electric Ford F-150 that's coming out? It's fully electric.
Truck,
Yeah,
mini pickup?
no, like F-150 sides.
Really?
Yeah,
Well, who came, I guess, GM came out with a small truck, right?
yeah, yeah, this is like a full-on F-150.
You know, I've been waiting for that. You know, there's so many of those quarter-ton mini pickups in the world.
Yeah,
I mean, even the Taliban use them, right?
that's what I was wondering, like, okay, we have all these electric cars, what about like work vehicles, you know? like
Yeah,
pickups and
I've been
things,
waiting
so-
for that mini truck, I would have think they would have jumped on that and they could have made, you know, trillions on that.
Yeah, well, now this next year,
Yeah.
you'll see that, yeah.
And I don't
electric
think
Ford
Toyota and
F-150.
the Japanese have done that.
No.
I think it's US has done that.
Yeah,
The electric Ford 150.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, I just saw that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Portable too, like 40.
I know.
Yeah, I saw that.
Has the
40,000.
truck even come out yet?
yeah.
I don't know.
expecting
if
us to
about
come out and
time.
see a
Took a
whole
long
bunch on the
time.
road and everything. I haven't seen a single one.
I don't know if that one's gonna come out. I love it how
Guy smashed that
he
window for
smashed the
nothing.
window. He's like, "Look, the brake will."
I think that was just like
Where's my glasses?
joke type thing.
You watch
Oh,
the
right.
Saturday Night Live videos?
No.
That's where they are. Okay, so we compared the things and they all come out the same, right? We
Yeah.
did the, yeah. I'll say bird's mouth, raptor tail.
You think we can adjust the length that goes to 64? So we're going 30 seconds anyway.
You know why they have that is because wood just, they have to have that 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch tolerance, because wood comes in different sizes. It's not even uniform anymore. And it bends and grow, gets wet and swells. So to try to get a 64th or 32nd or even an 8th is kind of wishful thinking. But they're covered with crap, right? Stucco and sheetrock, it takes up all that misfitting. Thank goodness. I know Rodney, I don't know how he frames, if he brings his cabinet making senses with him when he does it.
You guys do anything with stucco in any of your classes at all?
With what?
Stucco?
I can't,
Do you go over stucco at all?
Oh,
in any of
stucco,
your
no.
classes? No.
No. When we were starting, we wanted to do a bunch of trades. The vice president, they had more vice presidents, 15 years ago. And the guy who wanted to get this started was a VP. And he had a son-in-law that was a tile setter. He wanted to do tile, which would be really useful,
Yeah.
So plumbing, electrical, tile, maybe stucco, those have been great. We were really looking forward to that, but we couldn't get enough buildings. So we just don't have the space. So we restricted it to carpentry. What I want to think this place needs is a lot of maker spaces for tools that people can use. They don't need to go to a school shop. They can do independent
Yeah,
projects.
that's a great idea.
And they can be, I saw this thing in South Africa, they're doing computer maker spaces where it's all stuff with computers and digital stuff. That's where you're gonna get all your inventions, get these guys, getting together and junking around with stuff. It's kind of like what they have, like Apple probably has a big, experimental factory that is the same setup. This would be open to the public. And it would give kids and young people a place to go. I think it'd kill a lot of birds with that, and we get a lot more good ideas. We were gonna do that here. When they were thinking of redevising and redoing this whole thing and having all the CT here, we were gonna have a shop for plastics and metal, and then a shop for wood, and then a maker space. That was all part of our plan, but we didn't get the money, so it all went.
You'd have to have somebody like here all the time, wouldn't you, for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Galita could do it. Actually, we're talking to Galita. Galita's always trying to do something that's better than Santa Barbara because they're such a, little brother community. So you can talk them into things sometimes. Yeah, look, if you have this, you'll beat Santa Barbara. They go, oh, well, okay, we'll think about that. Okay, so back to this. The second half of this is hips. We don't deal with that at all for a couple weeks. But turn to, the tail. So we figured 18 inch. So 4 foot 2 5/8 and 18 inch is what? 6 foot. So I have the long ones I have out there are 12, which we won't get to today, but next week when we start cutting a bunch of rafters, we can use those. And I've got, I think they're 10 footers or 8 footers that we can cut for now. What you do is if that was your length, you go buy 12 footers and get 6 foot lengths. That would be the most economical. But we're using scrap we're using stuff left over that we have. So that's another thing. You got to figure that extra rough rafter length that you're going to cut later. And you have to make sure you get wood that's close to that, so you don't waste. That's a whole art in itself, getting the right wood. So, so this didn't print real well, but I think, as I explained it, you can take your pen and, mark it. The one at the bottom is okay, but you can see the bird's mouth, and for the bird's you all see this page? Sorry. So the bottom picture is clear enough to see. So you want the front of the bird's mouth, the vertical piece is going to be against the top plate, right? So there's no problem with that, and the stucco or siding goes up under that. But on the inside, say you're doing if you're doing rafters, there's no problem with that, where that point on the bird's mouth hits the rafter edge. I mean, it could hit it above, it could go out a little bit above, because your joist would cover that. But if you're doing a vaulted cathedral ceiling where you're gonna sheet rock the rafters on the underside. Oh, I erased that, damn it. Anybody remember that? 2 5/8?
Yeah. It was, 4.
4.
Gotta remember that. Let's see what we've done here. So if we want that rafter to hit, we want the burst mount to hit right on the edge of the rafter where the wall and the rafter meet. That's the cleanest. If you go higher and you're out here like this, then you have a little gap there. And if it gets too big, the sheetrock could cave in there. If somebody's putting up sheetrock and they hit the hammer too close to the edge, you could crumble this part of the sheetrock coming down. Drive in there. So you want to get that fairly close to that thing, so it's cleaner. So what you do to find a bird's mouth, you know, when I first started framing, which was in the 70s, we just did 1.5 inches for the vertical part of the bird's mouth, because most of the houses we were doing were 3 and 4/12, and it's close to that anyway. And it won't be, it'll be above or below, but not a lot. So that was kind of a general thing. And it wasn't until I started teaching this that I realized, oh, actually you need to fit it to the, you know, to the size wall you have. So the way to do it is you find that bottom point, right? Because that's the length of the rafter, where the bird's mouth on the left side, where the vertical slice of the bird's mouth hits the rafter, right? That's the point from the rafter length. So then what you do is you draw a line the same slope as that top cut all the way up. Can you see where, if you look at the front page, you see it, they're parallel. The bird's mouth line and the ridge cut.
You draw a line the same slope as the top cut.
Yes, same as the top cut. You draw a line from the point of the bird's mouth straight up.
That line length line? Is
Yeah,
that
you
it?
see the dotted line on the front.
Oh, okay.
And you'll have your clips set on your rafter so you can just, you know, it takes no time at all. And you draw that up because you don't know where you're not going to measure up on the left side the size of your bird's mouth. You're going to start with the horizontal piece because that has to be the size of your wall. So I'll show you how to do it when I go out there, but you just take your square and you move it up till you have, and sometimes square doesn't line up, so you just take your tape and you go, if it's a 3.5 wall, you just go 3.5 and you stop where the square hits 3.5 across the top. And that's where your vertical just ends up wherever that is. So I'll probably have to show you this. I don't know if I have the energy, but on the left side, that vertical part of it's called the plumb cut, because plumb's vertical, right? So the left-hand notch is called a plumb cut, and then the horizontal one's called a seat cut because it's sitting on the thing. So those are the names of those. So the plumb cut, you don't measure. Like we used to measure 1.5 inches. That's not right. You don't measure at all because you don't know what it's going to be. Because the slopes are different. So you just want to make sure that horizontal line, the seat cut, is the size of your wall, whether it's a 2x6 wall or 3.5 wall. Once you mark that at 3.5, it automatically determines your depth on your plumb cut. You don't even have to think about it. You just bring it over and whatever it is, that's it. So we'll do it out there and I'll show you. So that's how you determine your plumb cut. With the hip, it's more complicated because you're matching that, but that's a couple weeks. Yeah.
How deep into that rafter, sorry, can you go when you're cutting the bird's mouth?
Okay.
Like 50%, no more than
No.
50%?
No, I think it's 30%. you can't go more than a third of the way, and it's a third of the nominal size of the wood. So say it's a 2x6 rafter.
Mhm.
So yes, and you go by 6 instead of 5.5.
Mhm.
So a third of 6 is 2 inches. So you only go 2 inches up
So the plank out cannot go past 2 inches.
on a 2x6.
2 by 6.
Right. And that usually is enough, you know.
Oh, there it is, right? 1/3. There it is. That's the note, right? Right there.
Yeah, it should be on there. Hey, wow. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, look on there. I didn't even know what I wrote on here. I did this so long ago. I'll have to redo it. It's getting. It gives you some of the bottoms 2x6 and the top is, and these are 4x12 slopes. So it gives you, well, it gives you different slopes. On a 2x6, a 4x12 slope, you'll go up 2.5 inches into the wall. If it's 5x12, it's steeper, so you go up 2.25. That's not right. That would be more than a third, wouldn't it?
Which one would be more than 1/3?
On this bottom,
But there oh. But it's on a 2x6. Oh, then it goes past the 1/3, which is 2.5, right?
yeah, yeah. Now, let me look into that. It's been a while. I'll have to check that. But you usually don't need to cut that because if you do, if you have a 2x6 and a 2x4 wall, it'll work. And it might be a problem it'd only be a problem as you get a wider wall, but normally you don't have more than 2x6, right? Yeah. If people, now this, you framers, things change. You tell me, is anybody building bigger than 2x6 walls? Where? Where?
We have a project, but it's,
I mean, is it in Santa Barbara?
yeah.
And the architect calls for 2x8 walls?
We did a place a long time with 2x12 walls in Montecito.
I saw
See-
one with a double 2x4 wall.
Well, see,
Double
yeah,
wall.
double, that, I built plenty of those, a double wall, 2x4, would be
Why
a
would
lot
you do that,
cheaper.
though? Right?
2x12 is not cheap anymore, especially now. It's the 22x12s and you got a mini truck paid for it. Yeah, so usually they'll just go to I mean, around here, you don't need it. 2x6, you can get, if you want to super insulate like a passive house or something, you might do a double wall, or you might actually do a 2x6 and then, but then put thick, rigid insulation outside. And that's better because it covers the studs and there's no thermal bridge going through the wood. So that's usually, they don't recommend too thick a wall unless it's double wall. But with single wall, they don't mention too thick because they want you to put stuff on the outside because it's more heat efficient. I don't know, that's why I asked, because God knows what they're doing, you know, people do all kinds of things, but the price now, a 2x6 is still gonna be a lot cheaper than. I'll call Hayward and find out the cost of those 2x4, 2x6 before next week or Wednesday. And let you know what the price of wood is now. Has anybody bought wood recently?
It's a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It's
So-
doubled since I was there.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, God. That's terrible.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so let's go out and design at least the first rafter. Yeah, square. We'll use this one. You can all hand around that sawhorse out there. Yeah, please square it up while you're going out. Remember, you're supposed to social distance.
Outside, Michael. Try to contain your excitement. You want to go first?
I don't care. I'm
Good, good job.
trying to get hired, you know, so that's why I'm helping you, bro. You know, you see my application, you're like, yeah. Give him 55 an hour.
I just take it every other hour.
I thought you were gonna say, depending on what you do, every other hour.
I remember as a kid, a lot of construction companies would do that because the workers' comp rates were lower for foremen and supervisors. So they would double the pay.
Never,
and then
never
you
happened
You only
again.
get like 4 hours a day. but it's double the pay, 'cause the
Never
workers'
figured
comp
out
was
what
lower.
caused it.
Huh. Maybe it's like dehydrated.
Yeah, there's a lot of loops.
I don't think they do away with that.
Before school too, yeah. He had a free, he had a free period.
Good.
So
Good.
he was gonna be a beat or something.
So first thing you do is crown
No,
the
he's
rafter, right?
I think he's finishing up college.
I just meant after the season.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, he was at hospital.
Sometimes it's good to put it on both sides. Okay, so we crown it because everything horizontal or diagonal has to be crowned up. So then, take these clips off. First thing we're doing is going to make the line to cut the top thing. So we put 4 even with the edge of the rafter. Let me do it and then you can circle by. And these clips, you put the square right where you want it, and then you don't put the clips on a number. You put the square where you want it, and then you take the clip and you just bump it till it hits the wood. And that way it'll always be at the place where that number is. That's pretty close to the number, but it's 16th off.
Okay, bro.
This one you can't feel.
That's nice.
So now anywhere we want to use this, it's got the right slope, yeah? Okay, so you want to come and look at this, want to just file by and look at how the 4 and the 12, and notice that the squares aren't exactly on 4 and 12. The square is, and the little acorns are wherever they are that makes the square stay in that position.
Really good class.
They're
On the
gonna
book, they
be all
put the square on
concentrated. I
12
gotta.
and 4. That's not really what you do.
It'll be off.
Yeah, I mean, this one's 12's down here. And that's where the square hits the wood. So I don't know what to talk about. So then if there's no cracks, that you have room, if there cracks, go down so that you're not right at the crack, but this one will just go. So that's it. There's your tape measure.
And your safety glasses,
Your protection.
your protection, gloves.
So then we're gonna do 4 foot 2 5/8, right? So if you're doing it by yourself, well, sometimes I cut this and then I'll hook it on there. Or you can, if you want to just get everything drawn, just put your, picture tape past where you need it, and then you can just lay it on there. So 4 foot 2 5/8, right? Yes. No, 4 foot, yeah. No, is that right? 4 foot 2 5/8. You only need it at the edge, but sometimes to see it, so to make it. So that's the bottom of the bird's mouth, right? And I put that right on the mark. And, you know, you only need it really halfway up, but whatever. And then you're going to do this. No. Wait. Yeah, like this. So this numbering is fixed on the square, so it's not going to be in the right place, right? So, I mean, you can't read 3.5 on there, so just take your tape. Go to 3.5. And that's your bird nest. So the wall will fit, 3.5-inch wall will fit right even at that. And that goes up 1.25 inches. So if you're 1.5 inches, you'd come out about here. So you'd be about 1/2 inch up. That's probably not going to make a big deal in terms of sheetrock or anything. That's why when we did 1.5, it usually turned out okay. But it's good to know how to do it in case you have a bigger case, something like a 2x6 wall. Or it's just, you obviously couldn't go to 1.5. You obviously have to figure it out. Does everybody see how that was done?
So a 2x6 wall, you'd measure back 5.5.
Exactly. Exactly. It would be a little higher on there. This isn't fair. That must have, it'll be a little bit right. So that's 2. So that's still under our third. Third of 6 is 2. So we could go with a 2x6 wall on 412 and probably 312 and 512 would be okay too. Okay, so that's what this is. Sometimes if you have too many scrawled out lines, you can use a crayon. Just develop a code with yourself and coworkers. Crayon means crossing out stuff. It's also good for writing bigger words so they can be seen. So this is going to be our rapid template. Just write template on it. And then what happens is you do a template and you don't mark it, and people use that as one after, and you don't have a template, you got to lay it all out over again. So mark one template and don't use it. Like we're going to do a lot of these, so we're going to cut 2 extra ones tonight. Or we might just cut one because we're just going to try it. We're going to get a block that acts as a ridge, and we're just going to nail it to that, and we're going to nail it to the side just to see if all the angles are right.
Patrick, did you take out the thickness of the ridge?
No, I didn't. So this is 412. What I say about low slope?
So just half the ridge.
Which is 3/4. Right on. So we just come down 3/4. So our template is 4 foot, 1 7/8. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right? 3/4 of that is 2 5/8.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what is why did you go back 3/4 again?
Because this was the theoretical length. Remember, we found it from the tables, and that goes to the middle of the ridge because it's a triangle goes that way, like a 1.5. And it's a 1.5 ridge, so half of that is what we want to subtract. So if it's relatively flat, we can just go 3/4. And I should have done that with the number, but I just left that out, and John was good enough to remember it. And so if you do that, you can just make it shorter here, but the changes, make sure it's okay. If it's a bigger ridge, like it's 4x4, I mean a 4x8, so it's what's half of that? 3.5, 1 3/4. So you would do 1 3/4. Yeah, if it were
low slope, you could do just half again, 1 3/4. But if it were a higher slope, you actually can draw it out on paper, graph paper, where you just make sure your lines are square and draw it to the slope, right slope, and then just measure it on your drawing. But you have to somehow draw it either on a piece of wood or on a paper to get that. If it's a steeper slope and it's going to be a longer distance, whether it's in a 2x or a 4x. And then you'll subtract that. If it's a 4x or bigger, you're going to cut off a much bigger chunk than that 3/4. Okay, and then we said this is the bottom, and we said along here 18 inches would be enough. Probably 16. So we're just gonna, this we could just put up like it is because we're not gonna use this. But this is gonna be in our way. So we'll cut them. We'll cut it at actually at the 18 inch. So the this is the way you can figure it. This is the wall right here under the bird's mouth, and this is the slope. So you just got to measure. Say it's a 1 foot slope. You just got to measure a foot this way, right? Because this, when this is up on the building, this will be level. So it's always measured on the plans. It'll always say underneath a level measurement. So foot level will be right where this hits. I'm not going to draw it because, but we're going to cut the final one here, so we could actually come even closer. You know, I just ballpark this group. It's right here, so we could cut it anywhere in here. And then just leave it ragged, and then we snap the line. Okay, so the other thing you can't do is the same in the stairway. You can't cut this past it. You know, skill saw is round. So when the blade hits the mark, it's not as far on the underside. It's back a little bit because it's round, right? And so it won't drop off. If you cut them both ways, there'll be a little bit of holding it on. We used to go past it, not on a 2x6, because usually 2x6 aren't rafters. We just have a mini house. Usually they're at least 2x8, 2x10. Then you can cut past, and it's still within that third. So legally, you think if they're allowing you to cut a third, and your overcut's not more than that, you think they'd allow that, right? But they don't. They don't want you to do it. I think it's because they just don't want you to get sloppy. So you have to cut. Go ahead. John's all fixed up. So I'll cut these tonight so we can, and then next week when we start mass producing, I'll get all of you a chance to cut. So right, and then yeah, we can cut off the top. This doesn't even have to be straight. And this one, we go to it's the lower line, right? And you don't need to lift up the guard with that angle, but this angle you will. It'll get in the way. And you should have a light.
You want a shim?
What's that?
Do you want a shim for that?
No. It's like a risky. What's that race called? The Labor Day race where they change the tires?
I don't know. We should go there or something.
I lived in Maine. It's a real old tradition. We used to cut everything by hand. We have a hand saw. Good old days. Because you're only cutting a little bit. We're electrified now. So there it is. We'll do. Oh, let's test it, right? We'll do that, and then we'll go. So again, we got to crown it.
an idea behind tendency. Say I'm marking these lines based off of this, which is my template, right?
Yeah.
Would I tend to go on the line, outside the line?
No, that's so far ahead, it won't matter on that end.
Okay.
And also,
But
I-
in that
yeah,
order,
I'm gonna talk about it. Later. Also, you should do this with your speed square, because it's always safer to cut a straight line than a crooked one. I mean, I do it because I've done this for 200 years, but you should always do straight lines when you're cutting with a skill saw, because otherwise it's gonna blind. Once you've done it a couple of years, you're really good, so it doesn't matter. But at the beginning, I didn't. I just cut off straight. But and then these you cut to the right of the line, so you can see a little bit of the line. If you can see the line at all. So for beginners, you heard it bind a little bit because I got a little off. So you don't want to push it back where you are. You want to pull it back out and go back and follow the line. Because when you push it, it'll just bind and smoke and wreck the blade. So yeah, it's too dark, so try to bind a little bit. But, you know, you guys who've done it a while, you know that. Hold on. Wait, give me one more. John, give me. I know. I want to send something for you. Sure. Yeah. Do you have your nail gun here? I do. Handy? Yeah, I do. Oh, good man. So the other thing is, most of the blades you get now are pretty long. We started making them longer in general. Used to be they were shorter, and sometimes you can hit the bottom of the wood and down. So just make sure you have long enough.
Hey Patrick, for that triangle type you just did, you kind of use both. What's the reasoning for that versus just using a jigsaw?
Because where on top, the cuts all the way out to here.
Yeah.
But on the bottom, it's further back. So it doesn't, if you go up to the line where you're supposed to, it doesn't cut the bottom all the way.
Okay.
So we used to go past whatever the difference was.
Right.
It's like half 5/8 of an inch.
Why not just use the jigsaw for that and not even use the skill saw at all?
Oh, because it takes longer and it's
Okay.
not as, it doesn't cut a straight a line. This cuts a really straight line. And these heavy ones, these skill saws,
Yeah.
are really great because they're so heavy that they don't wave much. So you can cut a really, just by eye without even you know, something to guide you, you can cut really straight lines. So it's faster to do it this way and then finish it off. And like, you know, those, we used to have a saw and you know, they have that little, old fashioned, you may not have ever used one, but they have a grip and it has a little piece that comes out the bottom, kind of holds your hand. You would cut this backwards, so that little piece is right in the way. So we would cut off the bottom. We have a special saw, little hand saw. And just go in, it's just a half an inch. And now I use when I'm not using a jigsaw, I use those Japanese saws. Those are really good. Just get those. I mean, there may be a place where you don't have electricity on the site, but you wouldn't be able to cut that either. But you know, you never know when you have to use a hand saw. I mean, when I was your age, finish work was all done with hand saws. I mean, that was what you used. Occasionally, you used a saber saw. Mostly everything was cut with a hand saw. Nails, you had to pilot the nail if the wood was brittle at all. You knew, you had a sense of what woods would take a straight nail. Most of them wouldn't. You had to pilot it, put the nail in, and then set it. Can you imagine that? That wasn't that long ago. Now you just, and it's done, you know, and you don't have to hold it. I mean, even if you're an old timer, the new method is so much better. But you learn a lot about wood when you have to hand it, when you're nailing affects the wood more. With percussion, you know, things, it goes in so fast it hardly, the wood doesn't even, it's like a shot, the wood doesn't even know it's hit. But when you have a nail, you really got to be careful because you don't want to, you know, you're doing a really nice crafted piece and just split the thing at the last second. You got to go cut everything. So it was really an art. You had to learn, you had to have a much more sense of what woods were like. You could look at a piece of wood and tell how dense it was going to be, but all that's gone now. It's just, machines have taken over. So let's, okay, here's a puzzle for you guys. We want to put these, I think what we'll do is let's have one guy at each end, at each corner. So somebody volunteer to go over there and hold one of these in place. And one guy in the center, two guys in the center.
Doing my classmates
on the
favor.
center side. So one guy.
You got
in each
enough
corner,
work.
two guys in the center.
What?
This one's probably all you need, right? Or they're just gonna come right in.
We're gonna, so, yeah. So you make sure it doesn't fall off or like it's tight.
Oh, look at that.
And then we'll get a,
That's such a good.
we have a block. I had a block besides those. So let's, yeah, we could use. Should we cut it?
Get that.
Hey,
Oh, yeah.
you're doing really good though, bud.
So-
My arms got
Yeah,
tired.
damn it.
Gotta go to the gym or something, right?
Yeah. Oh, and of course it's not. Which one's plugged in? Somebody switch that into the separator. It's always on. Yeah.
Is that a pager?
So,
No.
John,
Yes, sir.
can you nail?
We have a assistant nailer here.
Oh, we do. We got a dedicated nailer. Move this back out a little bit. You can hold it. Somebody come inside and help with this one. You wouldn't normally need that, but it's dark and late, so let's just hold that out of the way for a second. Yeah.
Watch your fingers.
So, yeah, so Dylan, just a couple. Excellent. And can you toenail with that gun? Can you toenail this? Yeah, keep the top. We'll find it. Wait, the top of you, the top of you. Yeah. That's fine. And then toenail one in here, just one in the middle. Yeah. And then over here.
We're using a template.
Yeah, just for now, because we're gonna take this apart. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you want to test at least two to make sure there's no crack here. There's a little bit of a crack, but it's close enough, and that these are the right angles. If you didn't design it right, you'll see space. Those won't be the right angles. So you always gotta, you never. I've cut whole roofs of 20-foot long 2x8 rafters wrong.
Oh, God.
Working for somebody. It's a shitty feeling, I gotta tell you. And the guy was good enough. I was just learning roofing, so I made some error and I didn't test it. And they went up to do it, and then the whole freaking building, they were short. So we cut off the wood at the next 2-foot length. So we took back. So it was back then wood wasn't what it is now. So we got recouped it. And he wasn't too upset. So you really want to test a couple, and that'll be good. If it fits on the end, it'll be good for the thing. So next week we'll cut 4, not cutting the template. We'll cut 1, 2, 3 more, and we'll make 2 of these sets. And then we won't do this with it. And that's what we're talking about. Whether you want to, we don't have to get on the roof. But say these are bigger and you're up on this roof. How many guys do you have to do that? So one way was you have 2 guys you nail it down there first, and then those guys can go on the roof. Then you have 2 guys hold these, and then you have 2 guys with the ridge. One got that in, and he gets the ridge in place, and then you nail it, and then you do 2 on the other end. So we can try that. The book has one where you do this one and the one down there on just one side. You nail the ridge in, and then you come back and do the other 2. So I don't know which one's easier. I've always done it. And some people make a stand
so that the ridge is supported, and then you just bring these up to it. Like I said, it's really hard to find the exact rise for all kinds of reasons. You're off a little bit. So you can push it up, but you can't push it down past your brace. So I make the brace a little bit smaller than what I figure the rise would be. And then you can always, if it doesn't rest on it, you can always put a little block in there, a shim or a screwdriver or whatever, and get it up to the right height. You know, if you make a little, saddle for it. And you do that if you were alone or if you really were you didn't have a lot of guys, then you kind of have to do that kind of stuff. But we'll talk about more about that. So we can leave this here for now. But that's great, huh?
Yeah, that's good.
And it's not much of a slope. This is 412. 312 would be, a little bit less. I mean, it's pretty flat, But around here, that sheds rain plenty. We never get snow, so at least not yet. So, okay. Okay, now see these walls? Just while you're here. They may be on a line on the bottom, and the bottom plate may be straight, but it may just turn out that this top plate's not straight. It's got a little bow in it. Then that bird's mouth's gonna go to that bow. And so if you cut the rafters finely here, it's gonna parallel the wall. If the wall's got any curve, you're gonna have the curve. That's why you don't cut them ahead of time. And I used to get up here, what you do is you put them all up and then you walk between them and you cut down because the saw's heavy and it goes down. And it's pretty easy. I tried it a couple years ago and it was hard for me because I'm an old man and I don't think I'll try it this year. I'll get one of you guys that has experience to do it. But it's pretty easy and you just have to watch which side you mark it on. So if you're walking this way, obviously if you're right-handed, it'd be different if you're left. Then you're gonna see over it. So you just need to put a line on this side of the rafter. You don't need to do both sides, but you got to remember which one you got. And then you just cut. It's really pretty simple. You can't be scared of heights too much. Is anybody here framing and scared of heights? Me a little bit. Single floor is okay. 2 floors, get in there. 3 floor. I don't like to get near the edge of those things. But it's actually good quality if you're not scared of heights. Yes. Okay, so let's help me put these tool things back in the cords we can leave out.
So is that it for the live portion of this, Pat?
That's it for the live portion. I think we're good to go. So we'll just
Okay.
cut that and
I think Michael and Carla.
yeah, Michael and Carla.
I think that's it, Michael. I don't know if you can hear us.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
All
Maybe,
right, have a good night.
hopefully you actually saw something this time.
No, I can see it good this time. Thank you.
Okay. Good
All right.
Good one, man.
Hmm?